I met a gypsy.
That's an interesting point though about like if you to say like you were probably as fast or if not faster than Haiden, because there's two very different ways to approach the same end goal. Like your end goal was to be a champion at motocross. That's Hayden's goal. And it's like you've got one kid that is growing up Hayden's growing up in an extreme situation, like probably the most extreme situation, like got this really famous dad, has every opportunity being given to him, but he also has a dad that is making sure that he's working for it. Like, you've only got to follow Brian's Instagram stories to see him cleaning air filters. I don't fucking clean air filters. I'm lucky enough to
Why do you think I own a dealership?
Yeah, hey, I got fucking Lusty Industries. Shout out to Funnel Web Filters. I don't clean many air filters. So you've got that kid, and like he's got the ideal situation, and a dad that understands the predicament of having a rich kid, do something and the potential problems that can come for that. So that's the most extreme version of that spectrum. And you were almost on the other most extreme end of that spectrum, like South African kid, no scene, no eyeballs, no media, no nothing, but striving towards the same goal. And it's interesting because like, can you get to the level that a kid like Hayden's on in just this obscure place, without everyone pushing you, without in the industry, without the best bikes, without all that?
I think, you make a good point. It's as I've said before, there's lots of roads that can lead to the same destination. And you go look back, whether, just some of the names we've talked about, whether it was Reed, whether it was Townley, whether it was myself, whether we've all done it slightly different. But sometimes, like, I look at it and I think, man, imagine someone like Greg Albertine, when he started in the GPs, he wasn't even allowed in Sweden and Finland because of the end of apartheid. Something he had nothing to do with, nothing, he was just trying to ride a bike, and like, they're like, you can't come in our country because you're South African. So he had it really tough. I don't even think there was a roadmap for someone like him. He helped, I think, that next generation of kids in South Africa, myself included, because we started seeing a guy win at the world stage and then watch him come to America. And he might have had a few crashes in Supercross, which I think a lot of people remember him as, but I go, the dude was gnarly. Like, he straight up has kicked every top dude's ass at some point. And that's why he was always my hero. And he was the guy that I felt like gave us this generation the feeling that we could do it. It did feel like, maybe the odds were stacked against you. But I think where the main difference that I just see is a lot of the kids now, it's almost like there's a textbook on how to get to Loretta's and how to get a pro ride and how to be a pro. So we didn't have as much of that, but I think what we made up was with just heart and determination. Failure wasn't an option for a lot of people. And, that's something I can relate to with Chad quite a bit. He came over and it was pretty much like, we're not failing. We're going to make this work one way or another. And I was a little bit younger, and I came with my dad, and, my parents gave up everything. We didn't come from money. So they were in credit card debt and they were broke. And, so the thought of going home, even though my dad reminded me, he goes, we don't have a fucking home because I sold it to get you here. So we're not just turning around because it's getting tough. And those were some like tough times. The first year in Europe, when I was just a little kid and no one knew who I was and I was battling to qualify for GPs, it was tough. It was miserable. All of a sudden, motocross did not seem fun. I was quite content to kick it in the head and go back to South Africa and get a normal job and just ride on weekends for fun. Thank goodness my dad didn't let that happen, because knowing what I know now, I'd be so resentful knowing that we got that close and right at the hardest point, right at that peak where we've been climbing, struggle. Like, I was prepared to kick it in the head. And I'm glad my dad gave me that little extra shove and that tough love, because that's what got me over the crest. And it seemed like from that day on, it was a weird situation. Just things started happening. My riding was improving. I was getting better qualifying, better results, more interest from other teams. So it is interesting. So I think getting back to someone like a kid like Deegan, he's under a microscope. Let's be honest, there's probably a lot of people out there that are wanting to see him fail because there's always that jealousy factor. But what I do respect too is, like you said, Brian's doing everything he can, and the family works with a good friend of mine, Caleb Tennant from South Africa, who was like he was like a little brother to me growing up, and I felt like I helped him in the ways that people need help, like whether it was how to get your paperwork sorted, where to go, where to live, how to apply for a mortgage, whatever. Like there's a lot of changes, and I said I had an agent which helped me. But what I see with Caleb, like when he works with them, like he'll even say, hey, there is a lot of hype, there is a lot of cameramen around and those other things which, like he says, he's not used to, but he understands how that operates and how that works and how that can benefit financially as well as just the attention. Because let's be honest, if he was a third place guy and there's another kid that's a third place guy, but he's got 1 million followers and the other kid's got 20,000 followers, what are the sponsors going to do? It's about selling product. So you're going to get the ride based on popularity. But, even like talking with Caleb, he'll say they try to stay grounded and focused because probably knowing that he's never really, really, really struggled. Even when he had a bad day or things weren't going well, it wasn't like, we're broke, we have nothing to go back to, it's got to make this happen. It's a different way of being pushed and a different way of dealing with failure and success. So I admire the fact that they are aware of that. Like, hey, we got a target on our back. We got to go and do every little thing possible. One, to prove that we're doing it, and said old saying, what you put in is what you get out. So two different roads can get you to the same destination sometimes, and I'm always curious and I watch it. The first kid I felt like I really focused on in this department was Cianciarulo, because at one point they called him Baby Jesus, and when he was like 9 years old, and I'm thinking that's a pretty heavy nickname you got given there, and all of a sudden the pressure was on, and I always followed him, and there were times I felt bad because I felt like, because he was popular and so successful at a young age, there was just a large group of people that just wanted to see him fail. And I hope people will change their minds on that. These are young kids just trying to make their dreams come true. Don't hate on them because of their popularity level.
Well, and the thing is that like nobody chooses their starting point in life. It's not like, and this is where the term privilege just across the board is just such a fucked up term to me if you use it in the case of like a Haiden Deegan. You're like, well, he's just so privileged, and it's like, all right, man, this is how privilege would work. What he is lucky. Privilege would work like this. You got this Haiden Deegan sperm, which is a weird thing to say, obviously, but you got this like little sperm, and then you're like, hey, you could grow up in South Africa, just at the end of apartheid, and this is the road you're gonna have to go on, or you could pick this famous father, and then you go, I'm probably gonna pick the famous father that lives in wine country Temecula. That would be privilege, right? But if you don't get that choice and you just end up there, that's called luck. And then how luck works is if you grow up, if you land as Brian Deegan's son, we'd call that good luck. If you end up as my son with absolutely zero fucking talent on a dirt bike, then that's called bad luck. So it's like people completely lose perspective of this shit. And like to hate on anyone, like you're so right, like a Cianciarulo or a fucking Austin Faulkner or a Haiden Deegan, it's like, have you guys lost perspective of this thing called fucking luck? Like, how do you blame a kid for where he's born, who he's born? Like, you just got a kid out there that's having a crack. Like, I've never understood that mentality. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.